La población mundial está creciendo. Existe una creciente demanda por alimentos de alta calidad, sabrosos, saludables y cuidando el bienestar animal. Esto brinda la oportunidad a algunos países para abastecer al mercado mundial. Argentina es uno de ellos, ya que tiene un clima favorable y abundantes recursos naturales. La agricultura representa un sector importante y es un pilar indispensable para el progreso social y la prosperidad económica. Sus exportaciones agrícolas generan el 60% de los ingresos extranjeros del país. La industria porcina argentina ha crecido rápidamente. Desde 2010, tanto el consumo como la producción de carne porcina han aumentado más del 150%, una de las cifras más altas en todo el mundo. Están dadas las circunstancias para que la Argentina optimice la cadena porcina y aproveche las oportunidades del mercado mundial. Los Países Bajos pueden colaborar a lograrlo. Para satisfacer los mercados de alta exigencia, la cadena porcina debe garantizar productos sostenibles y seguros, protegiendo el bienestar animal. Los Países Bajos son reconocidos por sus conocimientos avanzados y por su experiencia en toda la cadena de valor en la industria porcina. Desde la genética, la nutrición, el alojamiento, los sistemas de control, la gestión agrícola, el tratamiento de efluentes, hasta el procesamiento de la carne y la cadena de frío. Todo ello adaptable a las circunstancias locales. Mediante el intercambio de conocimientos, la capacitación y la tecnología, ofrecemos a la industria porcina herramientas para hacer crecer su negocio y mejorar su calidad de vida. Trabajando en conjunto entre los gobiernos, las empresas y las instituciones educativas, podemos inspirarnos mutuamente y al mundo entero a desarrollar una cadena porcina integrada, eficiente y sostenible. Resolviendo juntos los desafíos globales.
Hola y bienvenidos a este webinar. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome at this special webinar devoted to the theme of weaner and finisher management and how to optimize that. This webinar is organized by Gita Porcino, the Grupo de Intercambio Tecnológico Argentino-Holandés. In good English, a cluster of 11 Dutch companies working together with stakeholders in Argentina to improve the local pig supply chain in Argentina. This is the fourth of 6 webinars in which practical pig issues and practical solutions are being addressed. And each of them will spend attention to a specific theme within the swine production, from breeding to slaughter. And this fourth webinar, therefore, will spend attention to weaner and finisher management. And the total package is aimed at better reaching out at pork producers and the surrounding industry in Argentina. We are broadcasting from a studio in The Hague in the Netherlands, and my name is Vincent Terbeek. I'm editor for Pig Progress, and that is a media platform for swine production all over the globe, and I'm happy to support this initiative. This webinar is aimed at the Argentinian market, yet the speakers are international, which is why we will speak in English, but you will see that everything is subtitled in Spanish. You will also notice that the presentations will also be in Spanish. If you have watched the previous 3 webinars in this series, you'll notice that the setup of this one is slightly different. We will kick off with a general introduction, after which we'll have a focus on 3 different topics. And every time, 3 of our guests will give a short comment about roughly 3 minutes every time, after which we will do a Q&A within that theme. And for that reason, let me introduce all the speakers all at once, so you have a good idea who is sitting with me. And on my left, straight away, is Gerjan Huisman, speaking on behalf of the Veldman Group. He's been owner of Practical Pig Solutions since 2012, and he's been cooperating with the Veldman Group, which is operating all around the globe, constructing pig farm projects. Next to him is Janneke Janssens, co-owner of Rodbond Publishers. She holds a BA in journalism and has many years of experience in publishing. And Rodbond Publisher is a publisher for hands-on solution-driven books and online trainings for producers in the global livestock industry. And then joining us from a distance is Robert Whittington. He is based in Spain and he's manager Latin America at MS Schippers. At the Schippers Group. He's originally from Minnesota, US, and he's been working with international sales for 16 years and has been around with the company since 2010. And last but not least, we also have joining us from Colombia, Francisco Tascon, and he's sales manager for Agrovision in Latin America. He's a veterinarian by training, having studied at the Universidad de Caldas in Colombia, and later obtained an MBA at the Universidad ICESI, also in Colombia. And he will take the lead in this webinar, and he will introduce today's theme with a presentation called Uso de tecnología para mejorar los resultados en la engorda. Francisco, welcome in this webinar, and I suggest you take it away.
Hi, Vincent. Thank you for being with us. And yeah, well, let's talk about how to improve results in the finishing barns. Okay, the first things to say is we need data for improving the results in the finishing area of the production, because without data we cannot improve anything. So the main issue is we need to record and use the data for making decisions. The other thing is we need to evaluate every part of the process to find where we need to work for improving the economic results. We are going to see 3 scenarios about how every improvement in the part of the finishing period or in the process improve our results, our economic results. And then after my presentation, you will see how many companies or some companies can help the farmers to get those results. And next, please. What you see is in the white, in white, the current results. Don't see the numbers, but the effect of changes. In yellow, we have changed the first one, and in blue, the results with the change. So that is what you will see in the present in the 3 scenarios. In this first, you see that we can impact the daily gain, for example, and with the same period of finishing, you get more kilograms. How you can do that? With better feeders, with better process of hygiene, or with better or the employees more trained to get a better results in the finishing barn. So you can almost earn 3 times or 4 times more money per year if you do the right things in the finishing barns. But the problem is we normally in the farms act like in autopilot. So, and we don't see what can we change to get those results. Next, please. Other thing we can do is to work on the capacity. For example, if we have better ventilation or better feeders, we can increase the capacity of the in the same area. We can put more pigs in the same area or have more kilograms per pig in the same area. So we will produce per year more kilograms with the same fixed cost or the same feed cost, or we don't need to work too much in the quality of the feed if we invest in technology in the finishing barns. Next, please. The last one is about the feed conversion. The feeders, again, the ventilation, the ambient, everything in the finishing barn will affect the results, the health, the hygiene we keep in the finishing barn will affect the health of the pigs, and we will have better or worse results at the end. So the conclusion is we cannot expect to have better results. We keep doing the same thing every time. We need to look for new ways of doing things and new technology and new things that help me to improve my results. And with data, I can see where I need to impact for improve that my economic results at the end. So that is a kind of introduction for the next speakers, and they will explain how we can do it and how the Dutch company can help the Argentinian industry to get better results.
Thank you very much, Francisco. I have a quick question for you before I move on to the speakers here. I like the expression that you said. It helps producers to be less on autopilot. Can you give just an example from your own experience? The system helps producers to see something they never saw before, something practical?
Yes. For example, when you see the daily gain, and you can see how the feed consumption is done through the long period, you can see if you have pigs or you have problems. Maybe you have health issues when the vaccination or the vaccination are not working at last. So if you have data and you can analyze those data, you can find where your problems are, and then you can make the changes you need to do for improving those areas. And it's very important to compare with other farms or other other producers in the same situation to see if I am okay or not.
Benchmarking function.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, stay with us. We'll talk with the speakers here in the studio as well as in Spain, and I may come back to you from time to time with a tricky question, making sure that you're still there. Excellent. We'll go to the three themes that I have announced, and we've chosen three questions, three intriguing questions to be answered. And the first one is how to improve average daily gain. Well, all three of the other speakers here in this webinar will all give their views. They will do that short, roughly 3 minutes, after which we'll do a Q&A, and then we'll move on to the second theme. Okay, the first theme here is how to improve average daily gain, and I'm curious to hear what Gerjan, on behalf of the Veldman Group, has to say about that.
Yes. Hello, Vincent. Thanks for having me. Average daily gain. If I can see the slide.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, there we have it. Yes, average daily gain. How can we improve it? If we go back to the basic, I think it is important that we know what are the needs of your piglets and finishers. And for example, feed, water, yeah, some space to sleep, some toys to play with, and where you can defecate and urinate. If we talk about the feed, yeah, storage is an important thing, but also the transportation of the feed. You have all kinds of feed, and that you have the right feed to the right pen, to the right trough, and fresh. And you can do it, of course, by hand, but you also can do it automatically. Next thing what is important, yeah, smart water supply. And what means smart water supply? That you don't have any dead ends, that the pigs will always have fresh water. And you can see it at the pictures that, that we try to avoid these dead ends, and also that you can mix in some exit if needed, if there are some health problems. If we go to this picture, if we have a good look, then we can see if all the needs are in the pen. I can see the feeding trough, I can see a place to sleep, and where they can sleep they also have some toys to play with the straw. But also at the back I can see the water supply and also a place to defecate and urinate. So that's important. Go back to the basic of the pigs. What do they need? But also in here are all the needs available for your weaned piglets or for your finishers. If you have a good look, you can see on the top with the yellow troughs that it is not finished yet, because we don't see any feeding lines or any water lines. If we go further to the next, yeah, I also have to look at my papers because of English. But if we look at the pen flooring and also the surrounding and the feed places, if we have a look around here, how can we help with hygiene? If you look around, you can see PVC panels, but also the sleds are also from PVC or plastic. It is easy to clean. But in the middle of where the trough is standing, you also can see concrete. But is concrete a good thing in your pen? I think it is. Maybe we can discuss that later on. So these are the basic things that we are need for a good every daily game.
Thank you, Gerjan.
Yes.
Great start. I'm going to your neighbor straight away. Janneke.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's Robert first.
Sorry, no, you're right. I need to go to Robert. I should stick to my schedule. Robert, are you there?
I am.
Fantastic. We'd like to hear your views on how to improve average daily gain.
Okay. Slides there. Yeah, obviously, water is an extremely important nutrient that is often forgotten about. And as you see on the left, the photos there, we pay a lot of attention to the feed because it's 30% of, well, it's the majority or the brunt of the cost, let's say. But it's only 30% of what the animal intakes, and 70% is water, even though the cost is extremely low. But we do see there on the right, this is normally what we see on the farms, right? That comes out after we do a flush out. So if you go to the next slide, we can see what the interior of the pipes typically looks like. This is a typical pipe on a pig farm with what we call biofilm. And if you go to the next slide, we can discuss how we solve this issue. And really the advantage to the methods we can provide is to provide clean water 365 days a year to the pig farmer. Why is this important? Well, again, we want clean water because they're drinking every day 70% of what they intake. The less pathogens that they have in water, the healthier the animals will be. So the solution we provide is not corrosive, pH independent, doesn't affect the water's taste or smell, and we can disinfect the water and eliminate that biofilm you see in the far left. And what we achieve in terms of results, if you go to the next, the final slide, is the far right photo, a completely clean pipe, disinfected water that even we can drink 365 days a year. But what are really the results here is that we improve the animal's health. Of course, there are no pathogens in the water. The feed conversion rate is improved, and not only that, which we'll talk about later too, is the mortality is reduced. And that's basically the main goal of our water care solution.
Thank you very much, Robert. Great introduction. We'll come back to you in a minute, but not before we first listen to Janneke.
Yes, thank you, Vincent. Also very nice to have me back here. I'm going to talk a little bit about good stockmanship, because we think that's also very essential, and Gerjan also mentioned it before, in the improving capacity. Of course, we're a company that provides learning materials, training, according to the pig signals concept, and we think that during your daily work you can detect all kinds of signals which can help you judge the state of production and improve. And what kinds of things are you looking for? Well, that's animal behavior. You can use that. You can also use your own human senses, so smell or just look or feel what's going on. And of course, a very important signal is also the data that you collect from technology. So that's all kinds of things you can use to optimize your results on a daily basis. And well, in our concepts, we teach people the concept of look, think, act. So we make them aware of what do you see when you walk into the barn. So during your daily inspection, what can you detect? So focus on what you see and sense. Then if you see something that's not normal, you should think, what could this be? There's an example in the right in the screen, as you can see. So you can decide for yourself, is this abnormal? And if it is, what could be the cause? And if is action needed here? Well, if you decide it's not normal what I see and action is needed, then you note the pen number or the animal number, and you finish your rounds. So not go into action immediately, because first you have to do your complete round, but you have to make sure to come back to that stable or unit later. So the look, think, act principle is very important in improving your daily results. So what are you looking for? That's an important thing. This is one of the pages of one of our learning books, where you learn people, well, what characteristics are you looking for when you are judging the signals in the stable? So you can look at, as you can see, behavior of the pigs. Is it good or bad? Or are they alert, interested or not? Or are they slow, lethargic? You look at the condition of the pigs, but for example also the skin, the hair color, and also the moisture balance. So those are all kinds of signals that you can see when you are doing your daily rounds in the stable to detect abnormalities. So a couple of examples you can see in the illustration. How can you see if a pig is healthy or not? Healthy, nicely growing pigs often lay on their sides, and not healthy pigs, or thinner piglets, often lay on their legs. So that's a very easy way to distinguish are things going right or not. And also in the picture at the left below, you can also practice. What do you see there? Well, these pigs have a bit of empty bellies, narrow backs, so probably are not getting enough feed. So maybe there are not enough feeding troughs, or the feed is not right at them for the moment. So those are all kinds of signals. We learn people to really improve their daily work. So it's a matter of being conscious of what you really can influence yourself. I think that's very important in improving average daily gain too.
Thank you very much, Janneke. I think we've heard quite a lot of ideas in a very short time after each other. I'd like to ask Francisco one question, because, well, obviously you've given the general introduction. If I look at you in a few sentences, how can data contribute to get a better average daily gain?
When you, as Janneke says, be in the barn and the observation of what happened with your pigs, you need to combine with the data you get from your barns. For example, daily consumption of feed, water intake, everything that happens in the barn you can measure, and then you can combine with the observation, and you need to be alert to what happened there. Yeah, because if not, you will be at the end of the period, you will see the results, and you have nothing to do at that time. So that is very important.
I see. It works both ways, I suppose. You can look and think, oh, is what I see, is that supported by my data? And the other way around, you see something wrong in the data, you can think, oh, is that actually, right? Do I see something wrong there? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to your colleague, well, also somebody on the distance. Robert, I would like to know from you, we've been seeing, we've been talking about both growers and finishers here. What, in your perspective, where can the most gain be gotten in terms of average daily gain? Is that with the weaners or with the finishers?
Yeah, no. Ultimately, we're seeing very good results in both. Mm-hmm. I can't really speak for which is better, but ultimately, the goal here is to always have, because it's 70% of what the pig's intake is water. Mm-hmm. So the cleaner the water, the better results you're going to get all around.
Okay, I'm going to ask that same question to my to the people here on the table. Gerjan, in your perspective, where can you get the most gain? Is that during the weaner time or with the finishers?
Finally, the finishers will grow the hardest. Mm-hmm. So there you can get the biggest results. Mm-hmm. But it all starts with the weaners, because if they don't grow up very well and that you don't see things that go wrong, then you don't get the maximum growth of the weaners. And then also about finishers, they will not grow maximum. So that's why startup is incredibly important. Mm-hmm.
So they're important both for different reasons,
yes.
So to say. Yeah?
Only economically, but that's more for Janneke. If you have a good startup, then you can get the best results finally. Mm-hmm. But if there is something wrong, it is better that your weaned piglet will finish before it gets a finisher.
I see. Janneke, what in your perspective, where can you get the most gain?
Yes, I would agree with Gerjan that if you start early, also with prevention and detection, then you would have the most gain out of the things you do. But, well, like Gerjan also said, in an economic way, if a pig is already a finisher, it has consumed a lot of feed and you don't want to lose it in the end. So that's also very important to take into account. Mm-hmm. So I think it goes both ways. Mm-hmm. So prevention and detection to have healthy piglets growing up, and also not losing them in the end. And they have already, of course, cost quite some money. as a finisher.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that. I'm going back to Robert with another question. You showed some very impressive pictures of how water tubes can look from the inside. Can you make an estimate how much is lost through hygiene insufficiencies?
In terms of cost?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, in terms of percentage, I don't know how many. Do you know? What you're losing? Because pigs don't grow as fast, or they have a compromised health because of suboptimal situations.
Yeah. Ultimately, we'll see at the end of the presentation kind of the results that we're able to achieve in finishers, let's say, but. You're seeing reduced mortality. So that means if you don't do anything with your water or hygiene in general, you're going to have, of course, higher mortality, which will cost your production money. Mm-hmm. Less antibiotics, which is our final goal, of course, as well, will also reduce costs. That means you have higher costs in antibiotics if you choose not to do anything. You have higher feed conversion rate. You also have less growth. You have higher mortality and less uniformity, which in the end, when you're bringing your animals to slaughter, the more uniform they are, the more money most people will make. So the cost is really, that's where the data comes in, right? Francisco, basically, you're able to track that 100% of the time. So it is difficult to say exactly what the costs are, but in percentage wise, it really also varies. But you're always, if you don't do anything, also like with the signals Janneke is mentioning, and attack the problem from its root, basically you're going to be in a situation where every percentage point is higher and less economical or less beneficial for your production.
It's really a matter of all over the place, actually. It's not, yeah. Okay. I have one last question for this round, and that was you mentioning about concrete, and that you mentioned that it is important. Is that something that you wish to explain on, elaborate on now, or do you think, okay, we can talk about that later in the webinar?
Yeah, we can do it both, but if we mention that, we have seen my last slide. There was a pen that was what can we do about hygiene to help with PVC panels and also plastic slats, but also we had some concrete in the middle of that pen. And concrete, sometimes for hygiene, it can be a little bit difficult. Maybe Robert can explain a little bit about that. But concrete is also a very good thing. Also for the legs, for the toes, that they have the right settings, but also for humidity in your rooms for your piglets. In this example, because if you only have PVC and plastic, the humidity gets so high for your feeling, and if you have concrete, it absorbs more of the humidity. So I think that's always a good thing to have that in every pen of pigs.
At least a partially slatted floor.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll leave it at this because there is another topic waiting for us. So we'll need to move on to keep the flow into this webinar. With that, we close off the average daily gain theme and we go to topic number 2, and that is related to mortality and how that can be reduced. And again, Gerjan, I would like to start with you. What are your ideas about to reduce mortality in both weaner and finisher pigs?
Yeah, if we can get the slides, we already have them. Reduce mortality. Yeah, again, if we ask ourselves, what are the needs of your piglets and finishers? What is important for them? I think, we think it's normal, but I think fresh air is incredibly important, but also well-educated workers. And if we talk about fresh air, what is happening? Fresh air is coming into the stable. The pigs get the fresh air about their nose. They are breathing then we can get dust and also bad smell air. They are defecating and urinating. So yeah, their air is actually not so good anymore to take it in, and for your lungs it is a little bit bad. But we have all kind of types of ventilation, so that's a thing for later on. But if we talk about ventilation, it's important to know, do you want to cool down the air, what is coming into the stable, or do you want to heat it up? We have several possibilities for it, but it is important that you know what is necessary. Then also about wind influence. How important is that? If you have a very well thought out ventilation system and the wind is coming from outside, but the wind can blow into the stable, you cannot organize how much fresh air will come to the noses of your weaners or finishers. But actually for all the pigs is this a very important thing. So the place of your ventilator is incredibly important, because that makes sure that you get the fresh air into your stable, but also into your pen. And if you do it on the right way, you will get it to the nose of your pig. And how can we measure that? To test it. If we do a test with this ventilation system, here you can see it at this picture, that the smoke is coming from underneath and it is going up very smoothly, and then it goes into the pens, that you have the fresh air for your noses of your pigs. So that's what we finally want. And if you also think about the environment, it is important about the air. Do you want to use an air washer? It is for the environment, but also if you have a lot of stables around, just the air that is coming out. If you have the cleaned air, you will not have the bad air into another air inlet. If you have made all these choices and that you know what you need and what you want, then you need a smart design where everything starts, that you have the right layout for your ventilation system, but also for all the other equipment and efficiency needs.
Thank you very much. There we go. Let's move on straight away and let's go to Spain again. Robert, I think you have a thing or two to say about mortality and how that can be reduced.
Yes. Mortality, we talked a little bit about it in the previous slides, but not only is water extremely important, but also optimal hygiene methods. So what we can improve on is achieving an optimal method of cleaning and disinfection. Your pens will always be clean and disinfected. Your animals will be completely dry all the time. Animals will be cleaned. Transport vehicles, also very important, will also be properly cleaned and disinfected. And then, of course, we talked about previously already the water, 365 days a year, the completely clean water. If you go to the next slide, please. So here you see in a red box kind of the area that we focus the most attention on, and really we feel is the most important and where we see results in especially reducing mortality, is that you start, once you remove the animals with about 50 million pathogens, you apply water, you remove the manure, etc., get down to 20 million, but you need an optimal detergent and a method to proper method of application in order to achieve a reduction of such magnitude, which is down to only 100,000 pathogens per square meter, which allows you to prepare the surfaces of the entire farm for a more efficient disinfection. If you go to the next slide. So that's cleaning and disinfection, but now we're talking a lot about animal welfare and the reduction of moisture in the barn, especially when it comes to the floor. We're able to reduce mortality in newborns when animals are completely dry. I typically use the analogy when we go to bed at night, we don't get into a bed with wet sheets, right? We're most likely to get sick or be sick the next days after that. So we would like to do the same for our piglets in order to achieve better results. And if we're talking about mortality, also reduce the mortality. So you can continue to the next slide. Then animal hygiene. Not only is hygiene important in the farm, drying the animals, but also cleaning them. If we clean them, we reduce the cross-contamination and the possibilities of passing germs from one animal to the next. This will in turn, of course, reduce mortality in the sows and also in the piglets. Go to the next slide. And then finally, clean trucks. Trucks are also an area where there are a lot of germs, right? We're transporting animals. Wherever there are animals, there are going to be many, many germs, viruses and bacteria that we need to avoid transmitting from one to another and also getting onto our farm. So if we properly clean the vehicles, we're able to disinfect them even more. I see very often you have a truck, let's say disinfection gates, but the trucks are dirty. So they're going through the disinfection gate dirty, which is a less effective way of properly disinfecting the vehicles. So the better we can clean them, the better we're going to be able to disinfect and avoid cross-contamination, thus reducing mortality rates as well. And go to the next slide. Or the final slide. That's it.
This is it. Okay, so I will move on here. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, Janneke.
Yes.
How to reduce mortality?
Of course, like I said before, it's very important to early detect health problems. Also to do some prevention, but also maybe, and that's not a very nice subject, of course, to maybe euthanize pigs to prevent more problems. And when it comes to reducing mortality, it's important so that you recognize the signs of health problems. There are a couple of examples here. So that's also part of our learning program, that we teach people how to look at pigs and to judge are they healthy or not healthy. So some examples, on the left side, the healthy pigs, on the right side, the unhealthy pigs. So what can you see? Well, the first picture, for example, the piglet is moving, it moves easily. And on the right side, it has an arched back, it's not really standing on its four legs. And well, the eyes are not really clear, so that's a clear signal of that it's not a healthy pig. The second picture on the left, the pig has a clean nose and clean ears, so you can say that it will breathe easily. It's looking with a clear vision at us, and obviously on the right side, that pig is sitting on his behind legs, spreading his legs, and that's often a sign of bad breathing ability. So that's really a signal that something is not right over here. Also, look at the feces. So feces need to be have good consistency. So that's on the left side, and on the right side, obviously you can see very thin feces. So that's a sign that something is wrong in this pen. And the last one, the piglet on the left side is looking healthy, standing up, and very important, it's curly. So we do not always have piglets with whole tails, But when we do, it's a very good sign if it curls that the piglet is in good condition and health. And of course, on the right side, the drooping tails, also bitten, show us that it's not very good with the health with these piglets. So that's really a sign to maybe that the climate is not right, or maybe that there's not enough feed for all these piglets. And so when you use the look, think, act principle, like Francisco also said before, you can look at the data to confirm if what you see and think is right, and after that act upon it. So again, it's all about awareness, creating awareness, and giving people the tools to really act upon it. I think that's the most important message that I would like to address here.
Yeah. See, look, act again. Thank you very much, Janneke. Whilst you were speaking, I had a question for you, because we're talking about reducing mortality, and one of the first things you touch on is euthanasia. That seems a paradox. Obviously it isn't, but would you mind to explain that a little bit?
Yes, well, I will also come back to that later.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's important to decide. Of course, as a pig farmer or a worker, you want to keep the piglets alive because they are live animals, and it's a very bad thing to do.
Hey, we care for the animals.
Yes,
obviously,
you care for them if you have to kill them. But sometimes it's a necessary decision to do so, because maybe they could infect all other piglets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, of course, something you really don't want to do. And if you have to do the euthanasia, it's important, well, maybe I could go to the next slide to present that
Mm-hmm.
you have standard operating procedures on how to do that in the best way. So this is a euthanasia decision support tool
Mm-hmm.
developed by experts in the Netherlands, also from the University of Utrecht, the veterinarian faculty. It just helps people to decide, can I save this piglet, or is it better to not let it suffer more? So, and within that subject is also very important, and that's what we work upon with our learning programs, to get everybody on the same page. So that people have clarity and know what they have to do, and also can do it in the way that it is, good for the animal, and also good for the management, so to say, for the results.
So sometimes it's better to choose death to avoid further mortality.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I see. I would like to go to Gerjan and to Robert, both of you, because we both know that Argentina is not exactly, in terms of size, it's a long country. It's more than 2,000, 3,000 kilometers. So when you talk about climate solutions, they can be different. There can be different necessities in northern Argentina and in southern Argentina.
Yes.
Would you care to explain what kind of ventilation solutions would apply to all kinds of different climates within the country?
Yeah, it can always be different, but the most important challenge is always in the areas where it's getting very cold and very hot. So then you need to think out your ventilation system very well, because then in the hot period, you need to cool down the air, but also when it's getting very cold, you need to warm up, but also the amount of refreshing of your air. So several options are available, but it depends on the climate of the zones. So we always will find a solution.
Yeah, but there's no standard solution. You really need to have a targeted solution for the farm and the climate that the producer is based in.
It really depends on the area where they will keep their pigs. Also, humidity is a very important thing. Is humidity very, very high, then cooling pads will be less effective. So everything needs their own specificities.
Yes. Robert, would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, there are certainly with hygiene and water solutions, there are different methods of application, different situations, really depending on the region. And in water, depends on the installation, the type of pipes, the type of tanks. So it's not necessarily a regional situation, but kind of depends on the way most of the pig producers have done their installations. But when you're talking about moisture, in our case, because cleaning, disinfection, basically all around is basically the same.
Yeah.
It could vary a little bit, but it's not climate related necessarily, other than maybe when you're talking about a detergent, you don't let it stay on the surfaces too long because it can dry out if the climate's extremely hot, like Terjan said. And then when you're talking about drying the piglets, especially, that could vary depending on the region, of course, because there could be a very humid climate and you'll need to dry them even more to keep them drier. So the protocols can vary, of course, and that's why we can consult and coach and train also depending on each situation.
Thank you for that, Robert. I would like to close off this block of questions, but not before I've heard Francisco talk about mortality and how data can help to reduce mortality.
Again, you cannot wait to the finishing or the when you group finish the period. You need to track the data day by day, and because if not, you will lose money maybe, or you will not earn enough money with the batch, and you never know what happened. So you need to track the data of what happened in the barn, because a lot of money is involved in the finishing period. Farmers normally focus on the breeding area, but the money is in the finishing part of the production. So you need to track the data, to make the observations, and then you need to make decisions. Otherwise, you never know what's happening in the barn and what happened with your money.
Suppose it's also a matter of learning, and then you see what's gone wrong, then the next time you think, okay, I need to take action sooner.
Yes, of course.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And with that, I will close the second block of the theme within the weaner and finisher management webinar. And I'm going to the third one, and that's all related about good stockmanship and the role of knowledge support. And how, well, what does that involve, and how can it help us doing our job better? And we'll reverse the order now. And Janneke is the first one to speak.
Yes, thank you. Well, I've shown this slide before, presenting a decision support tool on euthanasia. Of course, it's a very sensitive subject, but it's just to show how important it is to have decision support tools and standard operating procedures, because, well, sometimes farmers think it's a bit scary because I will have to follow certain ways of working. But on the other hand, it's a very important thing to take your team seriously, because when people work together, it's a team effort. And when you provide clarity on what the goals are and the ways of working, you can work together towards the goal and make it a team success. So that's a very important thing to consider. Second, when it comes to taking your team seriously, well, how do you make sure that they acquire the knowledge they need to do their work properly? Because you have to enable them to get the knowledge that they need. And in the past, we've seen a lot of farmers invest a lot in training. But right now, I say the investment in training is necessary, but is also often overestimated. And that may sound strange from a company that's also providing training, but that has to do with the enormous amount of information that is coming to us. As you can see in this picture, until the 1900s, human knowledge has been doubling approximately every century. And by the end of World War II, knowledge doubling, human knowledge doubled every 25 years. And of course, you can see with the development of the internet, we are now at the moment that human knowledge doubles every 13 months, and it is expected that it's going to be much quicker in the future. So we get a lot of information towards us every year, and it's important to know that we cannot remember it all. So training wants to plant knowledge in people's brains. But it's important to know that people just cannot remember all that stuff anymore. So you have to support them in other ways. And that's also the way that we look at it as a knowledge and learning provider. How can we support people in doing their jobs properly? So we use two methods to provide the best learning and training experience to people working on farm. And it's important to know how do people learn and develop in their jobs. So we use, first of all, we use the 5 moments of need method. That's a certified scientifically method from the United States, developed by a really learning and development experts. And it has 5 points, 5 moments, describes that people are in need of knowledge. So first, when they have to learn a new process. So they come into a new industry, for example, and they don't know anything about the process they are going to work in. Second, when they need to know more about the process to do their work properly. So in the first 2 points, we call critical knowledge. So if you don't know the process, you cannot properly do your job. So then points 3 to 5, we call additional knowledge. And that is when people are going to apply tasks in daily practice. Then they need to look things up, for example, if they are not sure or are being provided some SOPs on their jobs. The fourth point is when people need to solve problems in daily practice. So they know the process, but they encounter something that they are not really sure of. Also, then they have to be able to find it somewhere, or they have to be able to be offered the knowledge they need. For example, in providing them SOPs within their working spot. And the fifth point is when they encounter a new situation in their daily process. So that's what we call additional knowledge. So that's the 5 moments of need theory. And the second method that we use providing the learning tools people need is the 70-20-10 vision on learning. And that says that 10% of the required knowledge that people have, they acquire through formal learning. So that's education, training, etc. So only 10% of what people know, they will learn through formal education. 20% of what people need, they will learn through informal learning. And that's what we call coaching, sparring amongst each other. Really talking about it and reflection. And 70%, and that's a huge amount of knowledge people gain when doing their jobs. So that's a very important thing for us, because yes, we can train people. We often say we train people on the critical knowledge. So we train people on getting to know the process, the critical points in the process. But when they are doing their jobs, they have to be provided with the right knowledge tools to do it properly. And that's mainly when you are talking about the 70%. And right now we are developing a platform with an app that people can use doing their jobs. And the goal is that people can find the relevant knowledge they need within 2 clicks and 10 seconds. So that's a very important thing. That, of course, if you are working in a barn and you are not sure is this sow in heat or not, you don't want to go through a whole e-learning module or something. You just want to see some pictures, yes or no, as a decision tool to take the right action. So that's something that we are developing right now, and also trying to connect that to data providers, because of course in the pig industry there a lot of people are working already with handhelds and so on that also provide information, and maybe we can connect the knowledge to the data provided in those systems. So that's something that we really are working on also, because we think it's important that you really support your team in doing the best they can. So it's not just a matter of here is the knowledge and you have to go to work. No, you have to constantly support the people in doing it properly.
Thank you. That was him. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Janneke. We go to your neighbor, Gerjan. Tell us about good stockmanship and the role of knowledge support.
Actually, good stockmanship, that's something, you have to learn that about the learning module, what Janneke explains. But I talk more about experience, I think. If you here see farm support, I have given many times farm support, especially at new constructed farms. Because new constructed farms that need to start up, they have a lot of challenges. The manager, the worker, but also the pigs have to learn in the new environment they are producing in. And also the right settings and how to go on with your new equipment. How can we solve all these things? And also, if you look at production in your new constructed farms, most farms start producing quite well after 4 till 6 months. But that also depends on the fact that when you start up a new farm, you only have to start up with some gilts. Most farms are doing that. So not the ventilation system, not your feeding system, also the water supply, you only start to using a small part of it. So that makes it difficult to use your stockmanship right away on full speed. And that's why we also help with that new constructed farm with all these questions to find answers together with them. But finally, it is important if you start up that you will get your help, and also that you know where you need to have your focus in the beginning. And we think it's very important to have it in the mating room, because first we need to get so most as possible pregnant gilts, that you start up your production, and then later on you will follow all the parts in your new farm, that you will start to learn how you can work with it, but also with the equipment, and that you have a good way of working. And that's also involved if you start up an SOP, standard operation procedure, and that you make it together with your team. And if they are working with that standard operation procedure, then they will have many remarks on that. But after maybe a few weeks or a month, then discuss it together and then change it. And don't change it every week or every few days, because then an SOP will not work anymore. So it is more that my experience, I will give that to the people on a new farm, and real education and things, that's more the part of Janneke's experience.
Yep. Thank you very much. That makes sense. I think let's go to Robert. and let's see if he can add something to this topic. Hope Robert's still there.
Yep, I'm here.
Well, there he is.
Go to the slides. Yeah, of course, we're talking a lot about training, coaching, etc. Really in hygiene, water care, all of the solutions that we mentioned before in previous slides to get the results we need. Not only is it important to have the proper products, the proper equipment, but also the proper training. So we can provide international trainers on the pig side, also other species that can collaborate, work together with the farm staff or the producer or integrator. So we have trainings online, also physical trainings can be done also in conjunction with the distributors. So we have a lot of people that are being trained, like our distributors as well, that can provide this support to the farmers to get those results. But you need the proper protocols, the proper training, also training protocols, and monitoring, right? So not only is the training important, but also the monitoring to get those results and make sure we're getting those results. And if we're not, then we adjust what we need to adjust based on our previous experiences in order to get those results. So if you go to the final slide, all together, the whole complete package, we're able to reduce in finishers, antibiotic usage, also the cost of feed or feed conversion rate is better, better growth, less mortality, and more uniformity is or are the results that we're able to achieve when we have the proper method in place, the proper products, the proper training and monitoring. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Robert. I have a few questions to round off this last theme of the webinar, and there's one question I've always wanted to ask, and now is there a way that you can recognize an ideal employee for a pig barn operation? Because I understand that specifically in countries, well, for instance, in China, there's a large turnover of the employees come and go all the time. How do you recognize somebody who is applying and you think, yes, that is somebody who has a future in this industry?
I think that will be the best way if you see people working with the pigs. Can they have also rest in their head, that they can see the behavior of the animals? Mm-hmm. And can they also sometimes use their own senses, smell, look with your eyes, hear with your ears? That are very important things. If you can see that people are doing that and they are greedy to learn from you, mm-hmm. I think you have a very, very good worker for your farm.
Yeah, I think you need to combine love for animals, yet at the other hand, yeah, it's also an industry, so you need to combine that with a certain kind of business-like mentality, I suppose.
Yes, that's mm-hmm. why also an SOP is very, very important. Mm-hmm. Because if you have workers that really love the animals, mm-hmm. but it is really an industry, mm-hmm. so we also have to look at the economic way. And that's also where we discussed before to euthanize some piglets, mm-hmm. because piglets is the best way to euthanize, because otherwise they have cost too much money already. Mm-hmm. That if you want to go up to a higher plan with your health produced mm-hmm. piglets, then sometimes you have to take hard decisions, and that is euthanize some piglets. But eventually you will get more healthy piglets, so you will have less mortality finally. So that is something that an SOP can help with that. So it's all in combination from economical ways, but also from people that love the animals.
Yeah.
Everyone at the right place and listen to each other.
So there's a combination is possible. Janneke, well, we've been talking about weaners and finishers in this chapter. Is that easier to learn than, for instance, dealing with sows and neonatal piglets?
I wouldn't say it is easier. I think it's different. You could also say that when you look at sows and piglets, you have really specific tasks to do. Sometimes specialized teams are put in place. And when you are working with weaners and finishers, you have whole groups of pigs that you have to keep an eye on. So I think maybe it's even more difficult because you really have to have the good stockman eye to do it properly. And also, I would like to say something about the question you asked Gerjan, because I think it's very important that you are open as an employer to your employees, that you are open to discuss things with them, that they feel free to talk about things, and also maybe to add some improvements to the process. I think that's what really distinguishes the good employers from the bad employers.
You want to invest time in them to kind of to train them and say,
that's
okay, listen.
really taking them seriously. And of course, we've seen a lot of people internationally entering the pig farm industry right now because, well, for example, in China, but also in Latin America, farms are really growing, and they are also supported in growing. But it's really hard to find the right workers. But it's very surprising to see that if people from outside of the industry enter the industry, what they can bring to the industry. If you take them seriously and if you work with them together to get really good results in place. So that's about communication.
Well, are you saying now that if there is a high turnover in the swine industry, it also could say something about the employer perhaps not doing a very good job? Because he's not trying to do as much to keep the people enthusiastic for the business?
Could be. Well, we've seen that at some places, yes. But it's mainly, I think, because the industry in some countries is growing that rapidly, that we just cannot find the right people at the right place. And it's also a matter of communicating with the outside world, of course. Because we've also seen in the Netherlands that people don't really know what the pig industry does, and that is about taking care of animals. And they might see it just as a very difficult industry. And working in the pig industry is not very popular. So that's also something that employers have to take into account. So to also go outside their farms and show people, what interesting jobs they have to offer.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
You mentioned the app that you were working on. When can we all expect that app?
I hope it will be there as soon as possible, but it takes a lot of development time. But I would say, we're looking for some proof of concepts to do right now. So if some companies or farms in Argentina are interested in doing this with us together, of course we can start up quite quickly. But for the main project, I think it will be 2023 that it will be operational.
Okay. Well, we keep refreshing our app store then.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Robert, I have a question for you as well. I've had the privilege of talking to one of your coaches who is helping out farmers to learn how to apply the hygiene. I was wondering, who coaches the coach?
Who coaches the coach? Yeah, obviously we have a team, a high care team. You can see behind me, it says high care. They have experts of many, many years that have been training our trainers or coaches, let's say. And of course, it's practical knowledge, right? So they've been all over Latin America. and been on farms in the region and seen the biggest integrators to even the smallest producers. Therefore, they learn on the job, like Janneke was saying before as well. But we train our distributors as well that distribute the products. So they're being trained by us, and then they're able to train also the producers. So it's all around a lot of training going on.
Yeah. Close contact to the headquarters. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Francisco, famous last words for you. How can data support making employees better?
Well, the first thing is what we need in the workers or in the employees is a kind of curiosity of how the job impact the final results. So then when we have people empowered in the farm with the knowledge and especially to know how they will impact the results, we will have data with quality or qualified data. And that is very important, because sometimes it's better to have no data instead of bad or wrong data to make decisions, because this is very important. There is a difference between data and information, because data is every number we have stored in a paper or in a software, but information is the set of data we use to make decisions. And if we start with wrong data, we are going to make the wrong decisions. So that is very important for the quality of data, the people train it. That is very important.
Thank you very much for that. And looking at the clock, I think we'll leave it at this with this webinar revolving around Wiener and finisher management, where we looked at 3 essential topics within this theme. We've looked at the question how to improve average daily gain. We've looked at how to reduce mortality and how to deal and how to make your employees on farms, how to make them work better. These questions we addressed. I would like to thank everybody for being with us in this webinar. And in case you liked this webinar and you'd like to see it more, well, you can always review it at the website gitaporcino.com. And that is where you'll also be able to find the first 3 episodes of this webinar that were published before. There will be a 5th webinar in this series, and I think that will be available by the end of April. So stay tuned for more, and I hope this has been informative. I thank you for watching again. I thank my audience, my speakers here. Muchas gracias y hasta la próxima.